If you're interested in a career in data but not sure where to start, this video can point you in the right direction. It definitely wasn't obvious for me when I started my career 25 years ago. I was overwhelmed with how much there was to learn, and it took me months before I really knew what I wanted to pursue. I've always had a passion for keeping the data and analytics pipeline going strong, so the goal of this video is to simplify the process for you and lower the barrier to entry. So where should you start? What I recommend is something called the RLS method. And that stands for Research, Learn, Stand Out. The reason for the RLS method is that there are so many data-related topics to learn, and a few minutes of research at the beginning can save you a ton of time and effort when deciding which learning path is right for you. But before we talk about researching career path options, we need to take a step back and understand something called the data journey. Fundamentally, data needs to be stored, governed, moved, manipulated or transformed, perhaps used to predict the future or train AI, and ultimately inform the strategy of decision makers. And this data journey is often spread across multiple roles, which means you get to choose the area that most interests you. You could be the person that builds the infrastructure that houses the data, or the person that's responsible for data governance, or the person that manipulates data and trains models, or the person who communicates the story told by the data to stakeholders. So again, think about the data journey and then where your interests lie. Now that we know a little more about how data has to flow between its current state to a useful state, here's my tip for applying the data journey to the research phase of the RLS method. Start with searching through data-related job postings with titles that start with data, analytics, or business intelligence and end with coordinator or analyst. Then look at the job descriptions to get ideas about what companies are looking for in terms of competencies, skills, and tools. These analyst and coordinator roles are typically entry-level positions that you can grow from and carve out a career path that suits your strengths and interests. The goal of this research is to come away with what's currently in demand and, more importantly, the data fields that interest you. To further help you with your research, let's dive a little deeper into possible career paths. We'll start with data architect. This is for a person who's more technical and likes hardware and IT. This career focuses on the beginning of the data journey. They'll be responsible for designing, creating, and deploying and managing an organization's data architecture. They'll be the ones defining how data is stored, consumed, integrated, and managed by different software. Next, we have a DBA, or a database administrator. They're responsible for the performance, the integrity, and the security of databases. In other words, data governance. They'll work closely with the data architect to plan and develop and maintain or troubleshoot the database. So if you like making sure that everything is in working order, this could be the career path for you. Now that the foundation is laid, we can branch off into a few different parallel paths, because even though at the end of the data journey, data is used to make more informed decisions, how you get there can take different forms. One of those options is data engineer. This person specializes in manipulating data, basically preparing the data for analysis or data gathering or connecting to other processes or systems. They're usually great programmers or coders. SQL and Python are foundational to them, but they also have a great understanding of just coding in general. They live in the database and transform data into a state that's useful to a company. This role is definitely geared for software engineers or developers who have a passion for data. Another option is data scientist. If you have an interest or background in statistics, you'll get to build predictive models and develop advanced algorithms that extract insights, drivers, and forecasts from data. This field is evolving rapidly, and more data sets are becoming available and new techniques are being developed. So you definitely won't be bored if you choose this path. And closely related to data science is machine learning engineer or AI specialist. And I want to note that AI is still a new field. It's evolving at an incredible rate. So the career paths I mentioned here are more directional than absolute. When you get into machine learning and AI, you'd be focused on creating the algorithms and predictive models that allow computers to learn from and make decisions or predictions. It's a very iterative field where you're in a constant cycle of coding and refining to get as close as possible to the results that you want. Once these data engineers and specialists have performed their magic, the resulting information can be fed to decision makers and stakeholders, but not as is. At this point, the data is still data. There's still a gap between the output of the tools and processes that I've described and those who want to use the data to drive their business. This is where the art of data storytelling comes in. It's also where all the career branches come back and meet, because whichever parallel tool and processes were used, companies only need one group or person to translate all of that data into something digestible. For this, we have business intelligence roles, data analysts, and data visualization specialists, all components of data storytelling. If you're great at communicating and summarizing complex ideas into easy to understand concepts, this could be where you want to focus your efforts. The key is having a basic understanding of the language of data professionals and the language of business leaders, and having the ability to connect the two. Now that you've generally figured out what you'd like to know more about, the question is, where can you go to learn it? And as always, you have options. Most of what you'll learn is technical, and just like any other field, you can choose to do this through a community college, a university, or online. All three options can lead to a successful career in data, as companies are opening up more and more to alternatives to degrees and diplomas. According to a recent LinkedIn research, about a third of all job posts don't require degrees, and this number is growing. Depending on the company and their hiring practices, you can speak more about your abilities and less about the particular certificate that you hold. So feel free to find the option that fits your budget and life stage. If you go with an in-person option, community colleges generally offer more applied programs where you gain experience with more practical examples, while universities dive deeper into the theory and the technical aspect of data. As for online, well, there are countless options. So I'll highlight a few that I've come across or benefited from. We'll start with DataCamp. They specialize in data science and analytics and offer interactive courses in a number of tools, including R, Python, and SQL. And then we have Coursera, which covers similar topics, but they like to partner with the academic world and industry. Some of the content comes from universities and colleges, and they also offer professional data certificates with companies like Google and IBM. And here are a few others you can explore. I think the key for learning is finding programs that have video lectures, interactive coding exercises, and most importantly, project-based learning, because that's how you tackle challenges in most organizations. A challenge is presented, and you need to build a solution and see it through to the end. And of course, the great thing about video lectures is that just like this video, you can pause, rewatch, and learn at your own pace. Now that you feel confident with what you know, here are a couple ideas to help you stand out from the competition when you're going after a new role in data. As you're going through the learning phase, try to be tool agnostic. And I don't mean you should learn all platforms or software. That would be impossible. What I mean is, as you're working on projects, focus on the process and not the tool. For example, if you built a tool using Python that can group social posts into negative, positive, or neutral sentiments, Your main takeaway should be the algorithm you design, because the algorithm can then be applied to any number of tools. If you approach it this way, you'll be equipped when companies ask what tools you're comfortable using. Different companies use different software, and they often try to fill roles with people who know the same software or tools that they use. But if you say you know how to solve the problems they have using similar tools and should be able to learn their tool relatively quickly, then the tool doesn't really matter, and you'll be more likely to be hired. This one idea opens up a whole new set of prospective companies that you can apply for. Finally, building up a portfolio of data-related projects that you've worked on is a great way to show career readiness, especially for someone who doesn't have direct work experience in data. If you have a few completed projects that you can talk about and showcase, it shows problem-solving abilities, technical proficiency, continual learning and passion, and it highlights your creative side. Standing out is all about increasing the chances of getting noticed by the right employer and removing barriers. And being tool agnostic and building up a portfolio are game changers when applying for data roles. I hope you found value in this video. Be sure to come back once you've started your first role to watch my next video series called Soft Skills for Data Analysts and Managers. I'll cover topics like data storytelling, dashboard design, and how to approach data strategically. Find them on mattersofdata.com.